All right, welcome. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to dive deep into a fascinating psychological profile, but we're going to do it by looking at the life of the very guy who basically was that profile and who ultimately gave it a name. What is it that drives some people that makes them just completely reject the idea of good enough? What's behind that deep, relentless search for the absolute, for the final answer? And the person we're going to use as our map for this journey is Claudio Naranjo. This guy wasn't just some famous psychiatrist. He was the living, breathing poster child for a personality type he helped discover and then name, the social five. I mean, his life is the textbook definition. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with this idea of the totem, then dig into what really makes this type tick. We'll look at how they see the world, break down their method for, well, everything, and then wrap up with the legacy they leave behind. All right, first up, the search for a totem. And this is really the core idea here. It's this compulsive, almost obsessive quest for the ultimate meaning, the perfect model. So, what does that actually mean? Well, Naranjo defined it like this. The social five, or the totem type, these people aren't just curious. No, they feel this existential need, this deep down requirement for a definitive, perfect ideal. Without it, they're lost. It's not a hobby. It's not a passing interest. It's everything. And if you look at Naranjo's own life, man, it's a perfect roadmap of this drive. His career wasn't just a straight line. It was a constant search for something more. Medicine, not enough, so he goes into psychiatry. Psychiatry, too restrictive. So he jumps into Gestalt therapy, this new cutting-edge thing. But even that wasn't it. And then he stumbles upon these fragments of the Enneagram, this model of the human psyche, and boom, that's it. He sees his real purpose, to build the final, definitive, ultimate system. But you gotta ask, why? Why this never-ending search? That brings us right to our next point, this avarice for meaning. It's all about that insatiable hunger for something extraordinary. So, deep down, at the very core of the social five, there's this feeling of being, well, insignificant. And that feeling is the engine for what Naranjo called social avarice, this compulsive drive to find what's special, what's extraordinary, what he called the quintessence of life. It's all powered by this unwavering belief that this ultimate truth is out there, and you can find it if you just dig deep enough. This wasn't just about collecting facts. It was a full-on hunt across music, medicine, mysticism, you name it, for that one thing that ties it all together. And this quote really just nails it. This intellectual voracity was not mere academic curiosity, but an existential necessity. Think about that. For him, this wasn't a choice. It was as fundamental as breathing. It was the only thing that could fill that feeling of an inner void. Okay, so if your entire life is basically a hunt for the extraordinary, what does that do to how you see, the ordinary world? Well, that leads us right here to contempt for the ordinary and this whole worldview of supervalue. And this search, it creates this massive divide in their world. It's black and white. On one side, you've got everyday life, which to Naranjo was just superficial. He had zero time for what he called academic psychology or cafe spirituality, the shallow stuff. But on the other side, that's where you find what he called supervalue. We're talking esoteric texts, definitive systems, and just an absolutely uncompromising level of intellectual rigor. There's really no in between for this type. And this is a really important point. This impatience, which can totally come across as arrogance, it's not really personal. It's just a built-in feature of the personality type. I mean, when you're laser-focused on finding the absolute truth, everything else just feels like a distraction, a waste of time. And that, of course, leads to incredibly high standards for themselves and for everyone else. So, how do they do it? How does a social five actually build this intellectual totem? Well, it's not random at all. There's a very clear method to the madness. Naranjo's approach was basically a three-step formula he used over and over. Step 1, exhaustive study. Go to the original sources, read everything. Step 2, find the holes. Pinpoint the weaknesses, the contradictions, the stuff that just doesn't add up. And then step 3, the grand finale. Create a new, definitive synthesis. Build your own system that's designed to be better and more complete than everything that came before. And his work on the Enneagram? I mean, that's the prime example. He took these scattered bits and pieces from his teacher, Oscar Ichazo, saw where they were incomplete, and then spent decades building them into the massive psychological system we know today. In doing that, he basically built the ultimate intellectual totem he'd been searching for his whole life.
But what's the end result of a life like that? A drive that intense, that focused. It forges a powerful legacy for sure, but it's one that comes with both incredible achievements and a pretty steep price.
Yeah, this legacy is definitely a double-edged sword. I mean, on the one hand, Naranjo became this absolutely unique and indispensable figure. He would work in total isolation and emerge with these incredible, monumental works of genius. But that same process had a downside. His standards were just impossibly high for most people, and that naturally led to a lot of conflict when anyone tried to change his work without what he felt was the same level of rigor. So this really brings our picture of the social five into sharp focus. You've got this analytical coldness, which is really a defense mechanism to stay objective. You have this need for productive isolation to build these huge ideas. Then there's the incredible gift for intellectual synthesis. And finally, those impossibly high standards, the very thing that was the source of both his genius and, honestly, his friction with the rest of the world. And all of this leaves us with one final big question to chew on. This relentless, lifelong search for ultimate knowledge, the life of a social five. Is it a noble quest that actually pushes all of us forward? Or is it a kind of beautiful prison, one you build yourself, that forever cuts you off from the simple, ordinary world that you've come to despise? Something to think about.